We often look up to our heroes, placing them on pedestals as flawless symbols of courage, innovation, and leadership. But what if I told you that the shining images we hold so dear are often just one side of a much more complex story? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of history and explore the lesser-known, often uncomfortable truths behind some of America's most celebrated figures. This isn't about tearing down legends, but about understanding them as complete, multifaceted human beings, flaws and all. By embracing the full picture, we gain a richer, more honest understanding of our past and, ultimately, ourselves. Let's start with a name synonymous with American independence: Thomas Jefferson. The principal author of the Declaration of Independence, a champion of liberty who penned the immortal words, "All men are created equal." It's a powerful, foundational statement. Yet Jefferson's life presents a profound contradiction. While he advocated for freedom, he was also a lifelong enslaver. Throughout his life, he owned over 600 enslaved people at his Monticello plantation. This isn't just a footnote. It's a central paradox of his existence. He wrote eloquently about the evils of slavery, calling it a moral depravity, but he never freed the vast majority of the people he enslaved, not even upon his death. Understanding Jefferson means grappling with this deep conflict between his ideals and his actions. He was a brilliant visionary who laid the groundwork for a new nation, but he was also deeply enmeshed in the very system of oppression he publicly condemned. Now, let's turn to the world of invention and industry with a figure like Henry Ford. He revolutionized manufacturing with the assembly line, making the automobile accessible to the masses and fundamentally reshaping modern life. He's celebrated as a titan of American capitalism and innovation. However, Ford's legacy is also stained by his deeply troubling social views. He was a notorious anti-Semite, using his self-published newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, to spread hateful propaganda and conspiracy theories about Jewish people. His writings were so influential that they were even cited approvingly by extremist leaders in Europe. Furthermore, while he famously offered the 5-a-day wage, it came with strings attached. His company, a sociological department, would investigate workers' private lives to ensure they were living up to Ford's moral standards. This created a controlling, paternalistic environment that clashes with our modern ideas of privacy and personal freedom. So, while we can admire his industrial genius, we must also acknowledge the harmful ideologies he promoted. Let's shift our focus to the skies and talk about Charles Lindbergh, Lucky Lindy. His solo, non-stop flight across the Atlantic in 1927 made him an instant global icon, a symbol of American courage and pioneering spirit. He was the hero of an era. But as the world marched toward World War II, a different side of Lindbergh emerged. He became a prominent voice for the America First Committee, an organization that strongly advocated for isolationism and opposed American intervention in the war against Nazi Germany. His speeches contained rhetoric that was widely criticized as being sympathetic to the Nazi regime and for containing anti-Semitic undertones. He publicly expressed admiration for Germany's technological power and argued that America should not get involved in a European war. This political stance severely damaged his reputation as an all-American hero. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, he did seek to rejoin the military and flew combat missions as a civilian consultant, but his pre-war activities left a permanent mark on his legacy, complicating the image of the brave aviator. Even figures from the world of arts and entertainment aren't immune to this complexity. Consider Walt Disney, the beloved creator of Mickey Mouse and the architect of The Happiest Place on Earth. His vision brought joy to millions and created a global entertainment empire built on family-friendly values. Disney's creative genius is undeniable. However, behind the Magic Kingdom, there were controversies. During the height of the Red Scare in the 1940s and 50s, Disney was a key figure in the Motion Picture Alliance for the Preservation of American Ideals, an organization dedicated to rooting out supposed communists in Hollywood. He testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee, naming individuals he suspected of being communist agitators, which contributed to the industry blacklist that ruined many careers. Additionally, his studio faced accusations of unfair labor practices, leading to a bitter animators' strike in 1941 that fractured the company's family-like atmosphere. Some of his early films also contain racial and cultural stereotypes that are viewed as deeply problematic today. Recognizing these aspects doesn't erase the joy his work has brought, but it paints a more complete portrait of the man and the empire he built. Let's move into the 20th century and discuss a leader who reshaped American society, President Franklin D. Roosevelt. FDR is revered for guiding the country through the Great Depression with his New Deal programs and for his leadership during World War II. He is often ranked among the greatest presidents in U.S. history. Yet, one of the most significant stains on his legacy is Executive Order 90-66. Signed in the wake of the Pearl Harbor attack, this order authorized the forced relocation and incarceration of over 120,000 Japanese Americans, the majority of whom were U.S. citizens, into internment camps. This was done under the guise of national security, but without any evidence of espionage or sabotage. Families lost their homes, businesses, and belongings. It was a massive violation of civil liberties, driven by wartime hysteria and racial prejudice. While some argue it was a difficult decision made under immense pressure, it remains a dark chapter in American history. Acknowledging this decision is crucial to understanding the immense power a leader wields and how, even with the best intentions, devastating mistakes can be made. Another towering figure of the 20th century is Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., the face of the civil rights movement. His message of nonviolent resistance and his dream of a racially just society are inspirations to this day. He is rightfully celebrated as one of history's greatest champions of human rights. However, like all people, he was not without his personal failings. FBI surveillance, initially aimed at monitoring potential communist influences, uncovered details about his extramarital affairs. These personal indiscretions were used by his opponents in an attempt to discredit him and undermine the movement he led. Learning about these aspects of his private life can be jarring for those who see him as a saintly figure. But it's important to remember that his personal struggles do not negate the profound moral courage he displayed in his public life or the incredible positive change he helped bring about. It simply reminds us that our heroes are human, subject to the same weaknesses and complexities as anyone else. His historic achievements in the fight for equality remain monumental. Let's consider the world of science and exploration with Christopher Columbus. For generations, he was celebrated in American schools as the brave explorer who discovered America. Parades and a national holiday are named in his honor. But this narrative has been fundamentally reevaluated in recent decades. The reality is that Columbus did not discover a new world. He arrived in a hemisphere that was already home to millions of people with thriving civilizations. His arrival marked the beginning of a brutal period of colonization, exploitation, and violence against indigenous populations. His own diaries and letters describe the enslavement and brutal treatment of the native Taino people. The Columbian Exchange, while introducing new crops and animals between hemispheres, also brought devastating diseases that wiped out vast portions of the indigenous population. Today, many people view Columbus not as a hero, but as a figure who initiated centuries of oppression. This shift in perspective shows how our understanding of heroism can and must evolve as we learn more about the full impact of historical events. Finally, let's look at John F. Kennedy, a president whose youth, charisma, and rhetoric of a new frontier created a sense of hope and optimism in the 1960s, an image often referred to as Camelot. He inspired a generation to ask not what your country can do for you. He handled the Cuban Missile Crisis and established the Peace Corps. However, the idealized image of JFK often glosses over significant issues. His administration oversaw the failed Bay of Pigs invasion and deepened U.S. involvement in Vietnam, setting the stage for a long and divisive war. Furthermore, extensive historical research and biographies have detailed his reckless personal behavior and numerous extramarital affairs, which were hidden from the public at the time. While his supporters argue that his private life shouldn't overshadow his political accomplishments, critics contend that this behavior represented a character flaw that could have posed a national security risk. The story of JFK is a powerful example of how a carefully crafted public image can conceal a much more complicated and flawed reality. So, what do we do with this information? Does learning about the dark truths behind our heroes mean we should stop admiring them altogether? Not at all. The purpose isn't to cancel history, but to enrich it. It teaches us that people are rarely just one thing. They can be brilliant and flawed, courageous and misguided, visionary and compromised, all at the same time. True historical understanding requires us to hold these conflicting truths together. It allows us to appreciate their incredible achievements while still holding them accountable for their failures. This nuanced view makes these figures more human, more relatable, and ultimately more instructive. It reminds us that progress is often messy, and that even the greatest among us are products of their time, with blind spots and imperfections. By looking at our heroes with clear eyes, we don't diminish them. We see them for who they truly were, and we learn a more profound lesson about our shared, complicated, and ever-evolving human story. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into history. If you found this exploration as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content that challenges the way we see the world. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which historical figure do you find the most complex? Until next time, stay curious.